For the 69th time, a rivalry is renewed.
Bridges on a back. Oh!
One program that makes its claim of location as the basketball capital of the world. The other has been the standard of the sport over the last decade. Between them, 7 national championships since 1985. Entering Saturday's showdown in Philadelphia, both teams are looking to bounce back. Villanova enters at 9-3 in the Big East after falling at Marquette. Wildcats still in second place, behind Providence. The Huskies stand at 6-3 in league play. But after a home stumble to Creighton and the schedule really vamping up, UConn must find a response. The stars? Plentiful. It's Nova. It's UConn, what college basketball is all about. And it goes down at Wells Fargo this afternoon. Big East shoot-around tips off right now. Starting a huge Saturday in college basketball from Philadelphia. Hi everybody, John Fanta here with you for Big East Shoot-Around ahead of the renewal of a rivalry, the 69th meeting in a series that dates back to 1941. It is the Villanova Wildcats and the UConn Huskies in a top 20 showdown coming up at noon Eastern time on Fox. Let's get to the headlines right away in Big East basketball. Starting with the Seton Hall Pirates making a statement over Creighton at the Prudential Center last night. A 74-55 win by the Hall, in which Kadari Richmond had 14 points and 7 assists, in which 5 Pirates scored in double figures, and Seton Hall looked like the team that got off to one of the best starts nationally throughout November and December. Most importantly, the Pirates defended. They got out to a 23-3 lead on Creighton, and they never looked back. The Hall 5-6 in the Big East, now just a half game back in the standings of those Creighton Blue Jays. Quite the logjam forming in the middle of the conference. Number 2, those Marquette Golden Eagles just keep on rolling. Marquette completing a sweep of this Villanova team. We'll get to the Wildcats in a few moments. Earlier this week, and the Golden Eagles have this confidence about them. The way that they set the tone at the Fiserv Forum on Wednesday night spoke volumes about what they have become. You think about it, and that was 2 weeks after the first meeting between Marquette and Villanova, in which the Golden Eagles pulled off the shocker at the Finneran Pavilion. But they are fearless, and they're fearless because Justin Lewis has taken his game to a Big East Player of the Year contention level. Another terrific performance by Lewis on Wednesday, and Daryl Morcell and Tyler Kolek continue to have this 1-2 punch in the backcourt. Marquette is in the top 4 of the Big East and looks like they're going to continually stay there as Shaka Smart is forming a National Coach of the Year candidacy. Now, number 3, Villanova and UConn today. These two teams, it's not often that you talk about them trying to bounce back, both of them. But that is the stage here this afternoon. Timing is everything in the Big East, and there are some notes that reflect that heading into this one. Number 1, Justin Moore, Villanova star. He is questionable for today's game. He rolled his right ankle at Marquette on Wednesday. He did not practice on Friday. Jay Wright told reporters that yesterday, so we are monitoring his status heading into this one. For this UConn team, really a tough offensive performance in the loss to Creighton, a game that was played in the 50s on Tuesday night. For the Huskies, they need to figure out a way to establish Adama Sanogo early and often, because that is where their biggest advantage comes, and that means a big, big challenge for Eric Dixon in the paint. So it's really something to watch out for in this game, and CBS Sports insider John Rothstein will talk with us about that later on in the show. But for UConn, now they're a team that enters this one, you think about it, at 6-3 in the Big East. And at 6-3 with Villanova today and with Marquette coming up on Tuesday, this schedule really levels up for UConn, and they need to figure out a way to put together a sharp response. It's a high order to have to win at the Wells Fargo Center, but can they come out looking better on the offensive end of the basketball? I expect a war today. Both these teams average in the low 60s in scoring defense. They're 1 and 2, respectively, in scoring defense in the Big East. So look out for a rock fight here at Wells Fargo. For UConn, who is their alpha? R.J. Cole, the guard who went to St. Anthony for high school and played under the legend Bob Hurley. Has that Hurley connection, now transferring to UConn and finishing out his career with Dan Hurley. And he scored over 2,000 points, but done so much more. And we caught up with him earlier this year for a special feature.
I think what makes RJ special is, the way he was raised in the game. His dad is just like complete basketball, a junkie. His mom, his mom is a great lady who's about excellence. So his whole upbringing, playing for my dad in high school, he came in here prepared to be successful.
You're the youngest. You have a sister and a brother. So as the youngest in your family, what was it like growing up?
My brother was always the one that was around the house. He stayed with us. My sister is older, so she wasn't with us every day. My brother, he was a sports head too. He played football and basketball, so just being able to watch him, of course, helped me develop a lot. I was with my dad though. My dad, he really got me to the ball in my hand, and I really respect that.
And your dad played. You played at LIU.
Yes.
What have you learned from your father?
Everything. Everything he's taught me, everything you see now is a big part of it from my dad. He's taught me the game since I was 3 years old, really. And he's always taught me, don't let basketball use you use it yourself. Because it can create so many different avenues for you, but you can't do anything with it unless you're gonna put the work in. So countless hours of just being with him and on my own, just learning that from him, that work ethic from him, has helped me.
You're coached by one Hurley here, Dan, and you were coached by Bob at St. Anthony's.
Yeah.
What's the common thread there, besides the last name, that you take from learning from both of them?
They both aspire to be great. One was already great, and the son is trying to be great. And that's the common goal for both of them, is making sure that they are, and the people that they're coaching, who they're involved with, are great too. Everyone around them, they have good people around them. When
fans show up to games, and we're watching games on TV, the Dan Hurley that we see is one that is all over the place, practically playing the game. Sometimes he's out on the floor with you guys, getting somebody up after taking a charge, whatever it may be. It's that energetic figure. Who is he inside this building behind closed doors?
A fierce competitor. I feel like also too, what you see out there is what you get. And you guys see it out in the public. He's that fire with the refs. He's fire with us in the huddles. So what you see is what you get, and he's definitely a fierce competitor. He wants nothing else but to win.
Madison Square Garden. Big East Championship. John, winners here at the Garden. The Hoyas are the champions. Welcome to the Garden. Step back. Carney and Kemba. Congratulations to Providence. Throws one up. Isaiah Whitehead. Exclamation point. Villanova. Georgetown pulls it off. This is a Big East, folks.
RJ Cole's story is a great one, and he and the Connecticut Huskies in action with Villanova coming up noon Eastern time on Fox. Well, you think about the Big East collectively, and as things stand today, you're talking about 6 teams in the top 35 of the net, 3 of which are in the top 20, Villanova, UConn, and Xavier, and the Wildcats and Huskies meeting this afternoon here in Philadelphia, with Marquette at 25, Providence just sliding inside the top 30, and Seton Hall rounding things out number 35, making an 8-spot leap after last night's win. To talk more about the Big East and this matchup between UConn and Villanova, let's go to the Insider's Insider, CBS Sports' John Rothstein. It is great to be joined by college basketball's hungriest insider with CBS Sports, now with FanDuel. He is the one and only John Rothstein joining us to talk about the Saturday showdown between the 2 highest teams in the net rankings out of the Big East, but it's hard to believe both are coming off losses. Here it is, Villanova, UConn, Saturday at noon. John, what do you see in this rivalry renewed?
It's a little weird to think about this big game with both of these teams coming off losses, John. Obviously, we have to tip our caps to Marquette, who has been one of the hottest teams, not just in the Big East, but in all of college basketball. To me, the key, John, is obviously, can UConn establish Adama Sanogo inside? The teeth of the Villanova defense has been something I think that can be exposed. It's been exposed at times this year. The interior defense and the lack thereof for Villanova is a big question. But the bigger picture here, John, is this. You know, Dan Hurley has made UConn nationally relevant. He's a rebuilding guy. Some people might call him a carpenter. But with all that said, he has never beaten Villanova and Jay Wright head-to-head. For UConn to take the next step as a program, especially in this conference, UConn sooner or later has to beat Villanova, and to me, that's something that I look at going into Saturday's game.
Villanova 9-3, Connecticut 6-3, both two back in the loss column of the Providence Friars, 19-2 overall, 9-1 in Big East play. John, how has Ed Cooley done it?
Well, it's interesting because I wrote, in my daily column, The Breakfast Buffet at collegehoopstoday.com, that Ed Cooley needs to start being talked about as a national coach of the year candidate because, John, when you look at the guys right now that deserve to be on the list, obviously Auburn's Bruce Pearl, Arizona's Tommy Lloyd. You can make obviously Sampson. Houston continues to move on with limited resources after losing Marcus Sasser and Tremont Mark. But to me, this is the thing that I look at with Ed Cooley. Ed Cooley has not had this team together for more than a year. And also, with all the respect to the Providence roster, there is not a surefire first-team all-piece player on Providence's team. And Ed Cooley definitely didn't have an All-American either, like, obviously Tommy Lloyd at Arizona with Ben Mathurin and Auburn at Bruce Pearl with Jabari Smith. So considering that and considering how good Providence has been in end-of-game situations, 8-0 in games decided by 5 points or less, I think we have to start talking now in early February as Ed Cooley being a bona fide candidate for National Coach of the Year.
John, we brought up these teams and the Big East looking like a league that can get 7 teams to the NCAA tournament. Yeah. Xavier, Creighton, and Seton Hall we have not mentioned yet. But it just makes me think, in a world where Marquette's sweeping Villanova, in a world where Creighton is knocking off UConn, what is the 40th Big East tournament at Madison Square Garden going to be like next month?
I think it speaks volumes about just how good the Big East is when we're sitting here right now, about 5.5 weeks from Selection Sunday. Not that anybody's counting, but we've got 7 teams comfortably back it because of Creighton's the 7th team, and they've got 2 wins over Villanova and a road win at Marquette and a road win at UConn. They're comfortably in the field. You've got 7 teams in. Butler in the last 15 years has played in 2 Final Fours. They're not a part of that 7. And 2 of the best brands in the conference, St. John's and Georgetown, right now aren't anywhere near the NCAA tournament, and you still have 7 teams in position to hear their names called on Selection Sunday. There's 2 words to describe the Big East right now: upward trajectory.
There he is, John Rothstein. We appreciate your time, John. See you down the road. We thank John Rothstein for the time. Welcome back to Big East Shoot-Around, everybody. John Fanta here with you from the Wells Fargo Center. And something that is beyond basketball. In this Black History Month, the Big East Conference is doing something that no other league has done before, honoring the pre-NBA history of African Americans in this great sport of basketball. I'm talking about the Black Fives. And today, these 2 teams representing the Alpha Physical Culture Club, that would be Connecticut, and the Philadelphia Panthers, of course, Villanova, wearing special warm-up shooting shirts to honor the legacy of these pioneers in basketball, these African Americans who laid a foundation that the game has lived on throughout history. Here's a special feature.
When basketball was first invented in 1891, it was racially segregated like the rest of American society. Gymnasiums and athletic clubs were for whites only, but that didn't stop Edwin Henderson, a black gym teacher in Washington, D.C., from introducing the game of basketball to African Americans on a wide-scale, organized basis in the early 1900s. This era, which ran from 1904 to 1950, became known as the Black Fives era, referring to the 5 starting players on a basketball team. Much like the Negro Leagues of baseball, the Black Fives created a nationwide barnstorming circuit of independent African American basketball teams. Black Fives flourished in many of the same cities as our Big East schools today. Cities like New York, DC, Philadelphia, Indianapolis, and Chicago, as well as other cities with substantial African American populations. The men and women of the Black Fives era, and yes, you better believe there were also women's teams, opened doors for generations of black players, coaches, and contributors during a time of segregation and systemic oppression. These teams and players fostered hope and unity, using basketball as a common ground for building bridges. This season, during Black History Month, the Big East Conference will honor 22 teams from the Black Fives era. Join us this February to recognize their many contributions to the sport of basketball. To find out more, visit bigeast.com/Black Fives.
Back here to wrap it up from Philadelphia. This place should be electric this afternoon. Again, noon Eastern time on Fox. Villanova and Uconn, 12th ranked Wildcats, 17th ranked Huskies. It's what college basketball should be about to tip off the day. Elsewhere in the Big East, also at noon Eastern, over on FS1, St. John's travels to Butler. And you think about the fact that both these teams have had some ups and downs. Butler always dangerous at Hinkle Fieldhouse. The Red Storm trying to string some momentum together ahead of their biggest week of the season. You see St. John's coming off the win over Georgetown. Now at Butler today, think about what next week holds for them. Home to Villanova, home to Connecticut. Those are 2 massive opportunities inside Madison Square Garden for the Johnnies. A big one today. Can't overlook Butler at Hinkle Fieldhouse, where Hinkle Magic seems to live on Saturday afternoon. Also, 2 Eastern Time FS1, DePaul is at Xavier. And you may think, DePaul is at Xavier. Xavier should probably take care of business. But folks, when these 2 teams met for the first time, it was a 1-point game. It was down the wire, a wild finish in Chicago. That rematch is this afternoon on FS1. Hey, you look at the Big East right now and Mike DeCourcy's latest bracketology. He projects 7 NCAA tournament teams. The conference has depth. The top of it, still a bit of a mystery as to how things will shake out. But what we know is Providence is 2 up in the loss column at 9-1 at the top. Villanova at 9-3. Marquette in 3rd. UConn in 4th. And those Providence Friars will be in action on Sunday against Georgetown on FS1. For our entire crew here in Philly, I'm John Fanta saying so long for now from Wells Fargo Center. Enjoy the games, everybody. Part of a loaded Big East Hoops Saturday.